All right. Wow. We are here, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. The lighting is a little bit rocky. I just did it right before we got on live here. It's good to be back. It's good to be back for the common cause, correct? So just want to make sure that everybody can hear, everything is good. There's also a few changes to the setup I'm sure you can see, but I want to make sure I got everything running correctly. But again, thank you for tuning into the common cause. Let me even make sure this is working, by the way. Wi-Fi has been spotty all day. So, oh, wow. Okay. It won't even load on my phone. Okay. We are so back because I can tell it is on. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again. We have a few changes to the setup. I'm sure you can see this guy right here. Actually, we'll move him back a little bit. A domino set from Aruba. Okay. This is one of a kind that you get from the tourist gift shops when you're about to get back on the cruise ship. Okay. So we got one of these. It's amazing. And then in the background, we got the color changing lights, of course. And then we also got juice. I don't even know what this is. I've never even tried it. Someone left it in here. So now it's a part of the setup. So, and I can't even see the comments or anything or the chat. That's great. Okay, cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning back into the Common Cause. My name is Carson Carpenter. This is our 5th episode of it. I know I've been very bad about being consistent with this show in any way, really. I am running a business. I am traveling a lot. So it has been hard to be consistent with this, but I hope my opinions remain consistent and I hope my reasoning of thought does. So let's get into what's been breaking so far and since I saw you last, really. There's been a lot going on, obviously, with ICE in our cities, with the administration changing its tide on how it's going to actually enforce a lot of these immigration laws and raids. And we saw that unravel in Minneapolis. Now, I was going to do an emergency episode of the Common Cause, but I decided not to because there was other pressing matters going on. So now we're doing it now. Anyway, the situation in Minneapolis has been a really interesting one. And the title of this episode is Our Country Shutting Down. And we'll get further into that later, obviously, with the government shutdown happening. I believe that's supposed to take effect if nothing changes by midnight tonight. So a lot can go down, a lot can go wrong, a lot could go right. I guess we'll see. Could be happening on Twitter right now. I can't monitor the situation if I'm talking to you. So anyway, it's good to be back. It's good to be back in the home studio as well. Let me get my water bottle out of the way as well. We were a little last minute with this one, but getting back to the point of ICE in Minneapolis, we obviously saw everything unravel the way it did. And it was in a way that was just horrible, right? We had Renee Good getting shot in her car because an ICE agent was either hit by the vehicle or was about to get hit. I don't think it really changes the justification of the force, really. Also, that agent got hit by a car before. So we're going to speed run that situation because we obviously know the sparks that it created in Minneapolis and the fire it lit later on. So then about a few days had passed, and then Alex Preddy was shot and killed about a week and a half after Renee Good, if I believe I'm correct. And that situation looked horrible. There was about 10 ICE agents, not really trained very well for this type of situation, crawling on top of this guy who was getting beat up, pepper sprayed. He was trying to defend this other woman from who even knows. I guess he thought the ICE agents were going after her. I don't think that was true. Maybe they were telling her to get out of the way. And then he inserted himself into the situation, and then everything just went awry, right? I mean, we all saw the video. Everyone wanted to have their own opinions on the video. Everyone wanted to have their own take on it. And whether they were correct or not, is still up in the air to this day, depending on what you believe in. I'm getting text right now. Okay, good. It looks like the stream is working. Someone that is watching, text me if the mic is not working. I have no way of knowing unless if I play the stream. So, but anyway, getting back into that, what happened in Minneapolis was a tragedy both times, right? It was horrible to see. We all didn't want to see that. We didn't want to see our ICE agents having to go into a war zone undefended, but we also didn't want to see civilians be at the mercy of the tyranny of a force that was not sufficiently supplied, right? We didn't want to see any lives lost in Minneapolis, no matter what the left or the right is saying, you know, the FAFO or the this person was a victim of blah, 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 using them as a martyr. And then literally while the body is still warm, the Democrats are posting on Twitter or posting on TikTok, Alex Preddy would have wanted this. Alex Preddy would have wanted that. Renee Good would have wanted this. I'm pretty sure they weren't just Democrat shills. I'm pretty sure they were not working for the DNC. So it's kind of out of line for the DNC page to just go out on social media and say, this is what they would want. This is what this person would want after they're dead, right? I think that's a little bit unfair. And so I think we saw a situation in Minneapolis that was lawful but awful, right? I've heard some people in my circle use that term. I'm sure it's been used mainstream as well. And so I believe, sorry, I'm looking at text in the middle of the show. That's like the worst thing to do, okay? I'm sorry. I have a little bit of ADHD. That's like if you're in class and you just have your phone out in front of the teacher. Like, of course, you're probably behind the camera like, what are you doing? You don't even want this bad enough. And you know what? I'm sorry tonight. I threw everything together. I probably don't want it bad enough. Okay. But anyway, we got some nice changes to the setup. So it's okay, right? Okay. We got this nice Aruba Dominoes. Anyway, which I'll have to show you how to play as well. Okay. It's a very fun game. But getting back to Minneapolis and everything that happened there, right? Obviously, it was a horrible thing to see. Obviously, it was something that we didn't want to see. But we also didn't want to see the response that happened in the situation as well. We saw, I think his name's Greg Bavino, right? If I'm not mistaken, the guy who was leading the CBP forces in Minneapolis, because CBP was put up there because ICE agents were not getting support from local law enforcement that they should have been, right? If you go back to a few months ago, we had Los Angeles, right? Remember that whole scuffle of what was going to go on there because ICE was allegedly doing Home Depot raids, which, let's be real, may or may not have been true. But regardless, everyone was freaking out that the National Guard was going to be federalized and they were actually going to protect LA. And honestly, that city sometimes is not worth its protection, okay? Because the people do not know how good they had it when it was protected and everything was able to be carried out correctly. So then we had a law enforcement agency, the local ones, that had to actually comply in LA. They actually had to follow law and order. But the main difference between Minneapolis and LA is, one, Minneapolis is always the main target with this stuff, right? I don't think that's a surprise to anyone after 2020, right? You do have to ask some questions of, why does this always happen in Minneapolis, right? I mean, I feel like that's a logical question. You know, usually when you do case studies, it's 3 times, right? It's 3 times, and then you know, okay, it's pretty certain. This was really Minneapolis's 3rd time because we had the first thing happen with George Floyd in Minneapolis in May of 2020. And then we had all the other senseless killings that happened. And then I don't know if you really remember, because of all the chaos that was going on around the country, COVID, all that stuff that was going on. There was also a resurgence in Minneapolis during 2020. It was around July and August, probably when it's the most beautiful time to be up in Minneapolis as well. We saw that happen again. So this is really the 3rd time Minneapolis was essentially thrown into chaos. And this time it was done in the winter. It was done at targeted ICE raids, and it was done towards a targeted agency. It wasn't done towards local law enforcement like how it was in 2020. So then what happened was ICE started going into Minneapolis. They started doing targeted raids, right? But targeted raids aren't going to always be in private capacities. And what I mean by that is it's going to happen in public places. It's not just going to happen in a back alley when it's dark at night. They're going to go in and get one illegal and get out. It's going to happen publicly, right? Whether or not you try to hide it, which would arguably even be worse for this administration, because let's think about the optics. What if this administration tried to do it at the shadow of night? They tried to do it while hiding all of these operations. What would look better? Okay. What if someone took a video of someone getting abducted from a dark alley late at night, even though it was completely lawful? That person committed 10 crimes in the US and they should be sent back. The optics would look horrible, right? So this stuff is going to happen in public, and it's going to happen in public whether people like it or not. And then so we also had local law enforcement up in Minneapolis pretty much deny their services, right? As a public service announcement. They went on a press conference with the mayor. The mayor was like, I'm going to have my guys die for this. And then the police chief was just like, what are you talking about? We, you mean you, buddy. But he still followed the orders of the mayor. He still followed the orders of Tim Walz and whoever else calls the shots up there. Because I mean, Tim Walz, every time that guy gets on TV, I still have a hard time believing he can even do this type of stuff, right? You really think he's going straw manning on Twitter being like, I'm going to stand up to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the worst Nazi this country has ever seen. It's like, okay, bro, like you're Tim Walz, okay? You're balding. You have a horrible looking family and you're just retarded, okay? We all saw you in the debate. You go up against JD Vance. JD Vance is like, we're going to rebuild the old steel mills in our northern cities. We're going to defend the border. We're going to grow the economy. Like obviously typical Republican talking points. And then Tim Walz is over here off of something like, I'm friends with school shooters. It's like, bro, really? So I just don't believe, his media team, they're trying to be a little Newsom over here. And then anyway, that was a little side rant, but Tim Walz is like seriously retarded. I think we can see that with his son. And that's not a shot at his son. I just believe genuinely like he is a very bad governor. And there used to be a respect for him when his cities wouldn't get burnt down every 4 years. Okay. Which I feel like respect is earned, not just automatically given, right? Because if that was the case, then man, we would be in trouble because most of our politicians don't deserve much of any respect. But then anyway, so you had Minnesota just not complying with ICE's orders, with the president's orders, with Kristi Noem, with any of them about providing any type of support, right? And support just means like actually providing a sense of security for those ICE agents, correct? It wouldn't mean they have to come out guns drawn with their AR-15s, as Democrats love to go to as the only guns Americans own. Oh, those AR-15s are going to shoot everybody up. No. Okay. Support means when ICE is trying to do these targeted raids, maybe don't let them deal with civilian protesters, right? Obviously. I would feel like in a Democrat administration, we would even do that service to the Democrats, right? As Republicans in a broad sense, they would do that. They would be like, okay, we want to support our law enforcement so our federal agents aren't being killed either or at being risk of getting killed. Like we saw in Dallas a few months back, those agents almost died. And I'm surprised up in Minnesota, none of them died up there. There was an ICE agent that was getting curb stomped. We all saw the video. We saw ICE agents getting pelted with rocks outside the hotel they were staying at. We saw an ICE agent's finger bit off. And then you took a look at those people and you just have to ask yourself, wow, what if we just built a huge, insane asylum up in Minneapolis and then we congregated the entire city to live in it? like a huge Fort Knox style insane asylum, maybe outside of Minneapolis a little bit so that they can't get out and burn stuff down again, maybe out in the countryside, and then just throw all those people in there. Because, I mean, you look at what's going on, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. It was negative 25 degrees in Minneapolis, and there were hundreds of thousands of people out there. Was anybody doing that after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed? No. I can tell you that for sure. I can tell you hundreds of thousands of people weren't going out to the street and demanding change. Maybe demanding change of stopping political violence. Maybe demanding change of even going a little further than that, of not just looking at the shooting of Charlie Kirk as a political targeted violence act, but also as an act against just free and moral obligation to a person to be able to speak freely. I think we have to ask that question. Are they normal in any sense? No, obviously not. Who the hell is going out on the street when it's negative 25 degrees with the wind chill of probably negative 30 or 40 and demanding social justice change? I can tell you the leftists are. The leftists don't really have a moral obligation to their work. The leftists don't have a moral obligation to their family. The leftists don't have a moral obligation to anybody but their own conscience. Obviously. And we saw that. We saw that with the case of Renee Good. We saw that with the case of Alex Preddy. We're going to see it with the next person that's killed by any law enforcement agency, federal enforcement agency. We're going to keep seeing that because that's the way that they guide their moral compass. For most conservatives, it's usually with religious aspects, religious ethics, religious laws that they follow. For liberals and leftists and looters and rioters and agitators or whatever the hell you want to call them, that's their moral compass that they follow to a T. In these situations, in these martyrdom situations, that's what they follow. See, on the right, we tend to martyr people for their good work. On the left, they martyr situations that can benefit their political standing. Name the last Democrat that was martyred because of their own career, because of the goodwill and the work that they did. You can't really think of one. You can't think of one until going back about 40 years. And I challenge you to find someone that they actually martyred to a T because of the good work that they did in their life. It's really tough. It's really tough to find. They even martyred Luigi Mangione, who killed the healthcare CEO, because of the situation, because of the precedent that situation set. They martyred him because he killed a healthcare CEO, which in their eyes points to tyranny. They didn't care about the person. They didn't care about the person at the barrel of at the end of the gun. They didn't care about any of that. They cared about the situation for their political and moral standing, which their morals is backed off of politics. That's how deranged and delusioned almost half of this country has become. And I'm not saying that as a broad brush or attack against those people, but in the extreme cases, the people that get in these situations are to the most extreme standard of that psychology, of that physiology of how they live. And that's just true. Because you can be very moderate and still think that way and live a life that isn't very fulfilling when it comes to living outside of that box. But you're not going to necessarily be radical because of it. These are the most radical people that get into these situations. Like, I can confidently say I will never be in one of these situations. A lot of my friends will not be in these situations. A lot of people that you know will never, ever be in these situations because of that one factor that I just described. Oh, wow. There's people talking in the chat. Sorry, guys. I went on a little bit of a rant there. There was an attempt to get him out of prison with pizza cooking tools apparently today. I know, I saw that. I saw there was a guy who was trying to pose as an FBI agent to get him out. See, like, they will not stop at any end, right? And that's what we have to realize. And so whether it's you're out in public talking to these people, whether you're doing events like we are, where we're on college campuses and all of that, most of these people want you dead. Okay. That's just the reality of it. Most of these people, if they owned a gun and they could bring it to your setup or to your area, would at least think about taking the shot. Okay. So now's the time to actually put on our big boy pants and actually fight for what we believe in. Okay. Now is actually the time where we don't actually just stand down and we let this stuff happen and we're like, okay, we pulled some ICE agents out of Minneapolis. It'll settle down. Minneapolis will become sane again, which I don't think any of us are saying, especially after 2020. But we let them control the situation to a T. We let them control it every single time. They're the reactionary all the time. If I was the leader and was going into Minneapolis, I would have sent in Tom Homan to go even harder. I would have probably talked to Kristi Noem and actually figure out what the cohesive strategy is, because I don't think that she's just incompetent at her job. I don't think that she is necessarily fit for the job. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to go full stop, it doesn't have to just be the edits. It doesn't have to be to just make it look cool. It has to be strict action. So what they needed to do in this situation is they needed to send in federal troops to secure these ICE agents, continue their targeted raids, and try to avoid at all costs them with any interaction with protesters. There should have been an outward perimeter of where they're doing these ICE raids about a half mile out. They shouldn't have been allowed in these areas. Now, I know they have to be covert. I know that's hard. I know that's difficult, but it has to be done a lot more strategically. And that's where people are like, and this is where I don't agree, is they're like, ICE tactics are horrible. ICE's tactics are just, they're mistrained. They just don't know how to handle these situations. And I think that's false. I think if they were actually given protection, like, they would actually know how to deal with these situations, right? Because we're not seeing it in Dallas. We're not seeing it in Houston. We're not seeing it in Miami. We're not seeing it in Memphis. We're not seeing it in DC. We're not seeing it at Boston. We're not seeing it in LA, San Diego, San Francisco. We're seeing it in Minneapolis right now because of the situation presented. And Tim Walz should be investigated. In fact, he should have been served an arrest warrant for his complicitness in the fraud, for his lieutenant governor being in those signal chats to go out and hurt federal law enforcement. There's corruption in his administration. Hold them accountable. Trump, you don't have another term to go in. You need some moxie. You need some aura, right? Because JD's not delivering that. He's just not, with how he's currently operating things. Okay, you need a little bit of something, a little bit of pizzazz, especially at a guy who's just flat out quit. Tim Walz today was like, I'm just not running for any more public office. Which, like, geez, maybe you should have did that after 2020. It's because we don't hold anyone accountable. Like, throw him in prison, like, right now, actually, because what he's done to that state and that city has just been so horrible. I know I sound like a Zog-pilled boomer when I'm like, just throw Tim Walz in prison. But literally, like, come on. This is what over half of the country has voted you in for. Like, lock in. Like, let's actually hold our leaders accountable. They tried to throw you in prison for 700 plus years. They hired 70,000 IRS agents to go after every single one of us if we misspent a single dollar. That's the same as mobilizing ICE to the tune of $70 billion, right? Except ICE is going to be under a lot more scrutiny than the IRS. ICE is going to be under a lot more scrutiny when there's videos of kids being taken away from their family than you being indicted 34 times for civil charges. Okay, that's just the reality of the optics. We need to win the optics battle, okay? I think it would be so epic if we just went into the governor's mansion and just raided the hell out of it and arrested Tim Walz. Because one, he would look so stupid getting arrested, I can guarantee it. his glasses half falling off, his balding head, the wind swirling his hair up as he's walking out of the governor's mansion in like negative 30-degree tundra weather in Minneapolis or St. Paul or wherever the governor's mansion is. And he deserves all of this. Clearly, he dropped out of the governor's race. He said he's not running for any more political office. That's about giving up. That's giving up because he knows there can be retribution thrown upon him for the crimes that he's committed. Allegedly. So I don't get sued if this ever gets out publicly and Tim Walz wanted to come after me. But it's true. But it's just genuinely true. If there was any political person you were going to arrest, it would be Tim Walz. Instead, we got ICE agents pulling out. We got Tom Homan cuddling up with the mayor of Minneapolis. He's just a total cornball. He was eating Somali food with his fingers. And then he was eating it and he's just like trying not to throw up. Because I'm sure that sucked. Like, I would never want to eat Somali food. Okay. One, they're not really known for food over in Africa too often. Okay. That's what I've been told. I've never been there, but I'm assuming the cuisine's a little bit limited. And two, we're in America, buddy. Okay. Jacob Frey or Fry. Maybe go eat some French fries. Okay. Go eat something American. Okay. Because the last people that he fights for are Americans, specifically white Americans. Okay. Have you seen Minneapolis? I've been up there. You go to a store and it just doesn't feel like home. I'll put it that way. It does not feel like home at all. And when the red wave happened, when the golden age was supposed to happen, I want it to feel like my country again. Okay. So I'm going to be a little ticked off about that. Yeah. Rice and bananas and plantains probably is what Africa's known for eating. So there you go. Clap your hands to that because that's not that good of a meal. I can assure you that. But anyway, the topic of this episode is our country shutting down. Well, we saw it up in Minneapolis. We pretty much pulled out and shut that down. Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom, everybody was like, apply pressure and we'll show this administration. They want those people to die. Like, do you not see that? Like, how does no one see that, right? Okay. Liberal woman shot, killed, dies in car. Liberal man, ICU nurse, shot, killed, dies, whatever. Gavin Newsom goes on Twitter. Haha, keep pushing back. Keep pushing back. That'll show this administration. Like, is that any empathy? Is that compassion? Because that's what Democrats only care about. That's what liberals only care about is a perceived compassion. They don't care at all about these people. Okay. Clearly not, because they're parading around on Twitter like, I'm so proud to be a Minnesotan. I'm so proud that we stood up to this administration. They don't even care it took a couple lives. In fact, they wouldn't even care if it took a couple thousand lives. Okay. At the end of the day, Gavin Newsom's still going to have his Napa Valley wine atop of his little like vineyard looking over San Francisco, and the dumpster fire it is. Okay. That's just the truth in the matter about it. You think he's going to bed at night and he went to go lay down in bed, probably by himself because his wife probably doesn't sleep with him anymore. And he's just like, Renee Good and Alex Preddy died today. I can't fall asleep. No, I can guarantee you he didn't even think a second about it. Okay. That's how we have to start thinking about things. Okay. Because that's sobering you up to the game of politics, to the game of life, and to the game of our entire country and how it stands. But I can guarantee you, out of anyone, probably Donald Trump was thinking about it before he went to bed. Because one, it's optically bad for his administration. Two, he probably doesn't want to see this either. Like, right? And then three, look, at the end of the day, these people do not have a compassion sense, no matter if they convey it on social media or not. Okay. So anyway, that's just the reality of the Minnesota situation. I thought it needed to be talked about. We're already 30 minutes into this, so I figure that's a good enough rant. I'm sure more stuff is going to come out about the entire situation, about ICE in Minnesota. There might even be another tragic thing that happens. And that would be absolutely horrible. And I hope it doesn't happen. But we need this administration to start owning the optics, right? Like, yeah, getting rid of millions of people is not going to look good. So put people in power in competent positions to actually just go through with it. You already set aside 70 plus billion to ICE. There's no turning the ship around. So if Kristi Noem is going to back off and just be like, we can only do the edits, but let's only deport 100,000 illegals a year. I'm sorry, but fire her ass and send her back to South Dakota at that rate. But anyway, now we have a new problem. Now we got a much bigger problem. The government looks like it's going to shut down at midnight. So literally East Coast time in an hour and a half. Looks like our government's going to go kaputs. It's going to go ice cold. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, nothing for me because I'm not tied to the federal government in any way. So there's that for you. But what it means for the country as a broad whole is Congress is going to start acting like their pants are on fire, which, okay, that's the one time they even think about doing anything instead of just going back and really, what does Congress even do? Like, what does a congressman do? Like, can we get a Daily Wire documentary on that? Like, that's what we never see as behind the scenes stuff because they would never agree to it. Okay, that's the stuff you have to start thinking about. They would never agree to show their daily lives because it would be so hypocritical for the values that they fight for, obviously. So then you look at our government shutting down. So what does it mean? Well, what it really means is all the federal workers are going to get, laid off for a period of time. There's going to be a little bit of outrage, probably a lot more than before. Okay, because do you even remember that last shutdown? I know it was only a month or two ago, but there wasn't that much rage about it. Like, it felt like no one cared about the government shutdown. Like, genuinely, like, there was like no one I could tell you about that really cared about it. And then now looking forward, I'm sure it's going to get sensationalized. And that's the game of politics once again. Is Chuck Schumer immediately came out and said, I'm not going to do appropriations because DHS funding. Okay, big guy. Okay, sure. So let's shut it down for the 100th time. Like, who cares? Like, who really cares at this point? Okay. So we have old Chuck Schumer. Like, these people, they just live forever. Okay. I don't know if that means anything, but I think it's a sign that, after it could be a little turbulent for them. But anyway, getting back to the government shutdown, what it means for most normal day Americans is the economy is going to suffer, right? That's obviously what they want. And this is so strategic. It's so easy to read, right? We're about 10 months out from a midterm election, 9 months out. And let me tell you something about the political cycle. 2 or 3 months before an election really doesn't matter. Everyone has their mind made up. There's already mail-in ballots being casted. It's really the window of the 14 to 10 month window out of what the midterms are going to be, right? If you go back to the last 25 years, prove me wrong, because that's exactly what it's been. So the approval ratings you see, the approval of ICE, the approval of the presidency, of Congress, everything is going to be what the results show in November. And it's showing a pretty bad deal for the Republicans. Okay. So let's not even try to fight it. Okay. We know what the result's going to be. You don't even have to be a fortune teller to say that, right? Obviously, you can be super optimistic. I know that's a little black-pilled. We like to keep a positive energy for the common cause because how could you commit to the common cause, okay, if you're black-pilled, truly? Like, how can you have a common cause if you're just going to be like, you know what? There isn't a common cause, right? That's the definition of being black-pilled. So I don't want to be like that, but I'm also just not a Republican shill. So I will be genuinely honest with you, is that what it looks like now is going to be the results carried into November, barring something insane happening. right? So we have 70 billion allocated to ICE. There's a new appropriations package that's going to happen for more DHS funding and all this other stuff. So that money's starting to roll in. Okay. We have seen trial and test runs of cities backing against ICE, of trying to put up a fight. We saw it in Minneapolis. So let's say we fund ICE to the tune of $70 billion. We continue the same strategies, just hoping that they work. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. So they're going to go into another city, try the same deal, and that city's actually going to stand up to it. Or just maybe Minneapolis again once it gets warmer. I don't know. But you're going to see that. And then what happens there? You waste so much time. You're not deporting enough people. Like, it's cool that no one's coming in the border, but I'm sorry. All these illegals that did those acts are just adjusting to the lifestyle in the United States. That's why it's integral to get them out. See, it was cool to not let any more new people come in, but it's the people that have been here for a little bit, to the tune of a few years, and then actually are getting comfortable in our system and actually navigating how to live life here, and then continue to do their acts of what they were doing before, is exactly why we need more than 250,000 deportations a year. And we heard the number was 2 million self-deported. Well, Trump kept saying 10 million, and then it was 20 million. And then we don't even know how many are illegal. I'm sure it's probably closer to the 20 million. I'm not just saying under Biden, I'm saying total, that are totally undocumented. I would say a safe bet is about 20 million people across the entire nation. Whether that's Mexican, Central American, South American, Middle Eastern, European, Asian, Oceanian. That's an elite poll, okay? That's an elite poll, okay? I didn't know this, but Australia is its own continent, okay? I thought it was Oceania, but then it wasn't, okay? Like, do you even remember looking at a map when you were younger? I know not everyone was a kid, 10 years ago, like myself, but it would say Oceania. I didn't remember Australia was a continent. And I was on a cruise and I was doing trivia, and this black lesbian person came up to me and literally grilled me for it. And I was going to say, I never want that to happen in our country, a black lesbian lecturing someone. But then I remembered I wasn't in our country, so I couldn't really say that. Yes, it is Aruba, and yes, we will make Oceania great again. I totally agree, okay? Look, Australia is pretty elite. They're all prisoners there. They're all badasses there, okay? They're all just the prisoners that were from the British Isles, okay? So they're actually people that have a little bit of backbone, but then their government must have been imports from Britain because they act like total wussies, okay? I'm not going to say the bad word of that, okay? Because Kai Schwemmer could be watching, and I want to use as little profanity as possible, but that's truly who they are. But anyway, getting back to the entire subject of the matter, is our government shutting down. The government shutting down is a big deal. Not for me, again, okay? That's why I said earlier it wasn't. But it's a big deal optically, right? Optics. Okay, because they're going to sensationalize it to the max. And then ICE is not going to get funded. And then, okay, what's the Republican strategy? This is like Congress, right? The Congress GOP page is going to start posting, Democrats are blocking aid to our ICE agents. Okay. Most Americans aren't going to care because they're going to see all the situation in Minnesota of what happened and be like, wow, it's a total shit show. Maybe I don't want billions of dollars going there. Like, optically, you do not win. You will never win in this situation. So then that begs the questions, well, how do you win the optics battle of this? It's not exactly easy to win an optics battle of you pulling kids away from their adults, pulling people out of businesses, and surviving those optics. That's just the truth, Nuke. Okay? But the way that you win the situation is you just go full force, man. You just go full force. And you justify it with democracy. You justify it with you were voted in to do this duty. Immigration was on the ballot. Throw out their rhetoric, right? Like, I have not heard that from the Republican side at all. From 2024, right? We're doing all these ICE raids because democracy says so. Bang. There you go. Pretty easy to win that optics battle. Okay. Oh, why are you ripping kids away from their families? Because it's our democratic obligation. Okay. Because it's our duty to do so. Okay. We need to start hearing that type of rhetoric for this situation. 81 million people voted this person in. Okay. So why don't we actually start using that to our leverage? And that could be a Donald Trump strongman argument, is immigration was on the ballot in 2024. Just start throwing out rhetoric like that, because every time Democrats say abortion is on the ballot, they say the economy's on the ballot, they say Biden's on the ballot. They'll say anything is on the ballot. They'll say transgender rights to go into male bathrooms and start using their tampons for free as a democratic right, as something that was on the ballot. I can assure you no one voted for that on the ballot. But we need to start using rhetoric like that. Start using that is populist rhetoric. Okay. And Trump was really good at it in 2016. Maybe instead of just going into a press conference and saying, oh, wow, there's probably tens of billions of dollars in this room. Mark Zuckerberg, the NVIDIA CEO, Jeff Bezos. Wow, these are some high rollers. This room is so wealthy. Our country is so wealthy. We get trillions of dollars from Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Qatar. And Netanyahu's over there. Wow, I love Netanyahu. We're providing so much for each other. It's so amazing. Maybe at every press conference, we do a little less of that. Okay. Just slightly less of that. And optically, maybe say, no, my justification for going into Minneapolis and ICE to be fully utilized was democracy was on the ballot. Immigration was on the ballot. Our family safety was on the ballot. Our families, our women were on the ballot. Just start saying everything was on the ballot, because, man, that worked really well in 2022 for the Democrats when they totally belt to ass Republicans and that red wave was nothing. It's because they use stupid rhetoric like that. Okay, rhetoric, comms, and optics win elections. Okay, policy records, policy, and inaction of policy doesn't win you anything. Okay. And if you want to enact that policy, you have to win. I think that's just a little bit of a fact. It's pretty hard to enact any policy when you're getting BTA'd all the time, because that's Republicans' kind of motto, is what they were dealing with for a while. And for the longest time, we saw that, of just scapegoating to the other side. Oh, well, Biden wouldn't let us do this. He wouldn't let us secure the border. He wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. I mean, Trump has been able to pass a lot of legislation with a pretty slim majority. I'm not saying Democrats work with our administration a lot more, because they don't, at least optically. But they do allow legislation to be passed at a pretty record level. So you have to start winning the optics battle. So anyway, I'm not going to continue to lecture about optics. But that's just like I said, a truth nuke, because nobody cares about policy. Okay. You go ask 5 family friends. Hey, how do you feel about the policy of our status with Norway, of our billions of dollars we send to Norway? I'm sure nobody in their right mind has an opinion on that, but everybody in the world has an opinion on ICE agents going and hurting these situations up in Minnesota, even though they have about as much involvement with money going to Norway as they do to ICE agents hurting an American citizen. For most people, they have the same amount of interaction, because, one, most people don't usually typically deal with ICE agents. And that situation's up in Minneapolis. So a lot of people, They're just out of touch to both situations. It's about the optics, right? But anyway, that's all the proof I'm going to give to that pudding. But what if all my family friends are in politics? I found myself to be in an echo chamber of politically aware people. That just means you're surrounded by high IQ people. Okay. No, I think if there's just chuds that are just super casual and they don't know a lot, like honestly, that's on them. Like, right? Their opinion means very little because one, they don't really make much of a difference in the whole scheme of things, right? Like, let's be real. If you tried to just, red pill, white pill, whatever, pill them and really just tell them a lot of the facts, a lot of the details, is it really going to change our country's positioning? No. Because one, they're not going to Ivy League schools. They're not becoming lawyers, doctors, engineers, political analysts. They're not doing all of this stuff. They're becoming occupations where they distance themselves from making a politically charged argument or matter in this country. And then we wonder why everything's going downhill. Like at least back in the 70s and 80s, people were all clued in and for the most part, at least politically aware on one side or the other. Now someone will just be like, I just don't like how Trump went into Minnesota and just hurt those people. Like what type of justification is that? That's about as low of an IQ argument ever. That's like saying you're sitting at a lunch table and you're sitting with a kid you don't like and you hear of something that he did that you don't like, but you don't even bother to go talk to any of his friends. You don't bother to go talk to him. You don't bother to entertain any type of conversation with those people. And then you're just going to hold a grudge against that person for the rest of your life. Like that's what they do with Trump. Like it is a derangement problem. It is an idolization problem. It is a DD problem. Like they make him look like a DD in the sense of they raise him above a normal person standing in society. And if you're Trump, you really think you're just going to brush that off and be humble? Obviously not. But also, you have to snap those people that aren't politically aware. You got to snap them into that effect so that they don't fall into that cycle each time, right? That's the biggest thing. You don't have to convince them that abortion is bad. You don't have to convince them that, hey, maybe handing out EBT to Jaquavius, who's committed 18 crimes, including stabbing his girlfriend, is probably not a good idea, okay? Those ideas will come once they get over the block of like, maybe it's not so cut and dry of just, oh, I don't like Trump's tactics, or I don't like the tactics that X, Y, and Z is doing, right? Because, okay, if they wanted to argue that, then you say, okay, well, how do you fix the Minnesota situation? And, their chud self who just, probably watches anime. Okay. Look, I'm not a fan of anime. Okay. Someone has to prove me wrong on this point. I know there's people watching that watch anime, but for the most part, chuds watch it. Okay. Okay. That's just true. But anyway, going back to that thought, ask them, okay, how could have Minnesota been fixed? Oh, well, we should have just pulled out the ICE agents. Oh, okay. And show that chaos and going violently protesting is the answer. Usually when you give that rebuttal to them, they're like, oh, well, it's about setting precedent to the president. It's like, okay, buddy, clearly you're a low IQ goyim and you just have a derangement problem. Once usually they get out of that mold, a lot of people become receptive of, you know what? Maybe abortion is bad. Maybe giving out EBT and all these welfare programs doesn't benefit me or my standing or my family. Nah, that's just animated. Bro, okay. Like let's just be real. Like a lot of people that watch anime just tend to be chuds. Okay, we can't argue that. I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying a good majority tend to, okay? Anime is flipping awesome. Someone's going to have to put me on the trend. I'm a D1 hater right now. Okay. You can maybe bring me down to D2 or D3, but some of them are chuds, okay? And we've been knowing this, okay? So if you can put me on, I'll respect it. And that's what the left doesn't do, okay? The left won't listen to country music, and even some of the right won't, which shame on you, by the way, because you're just, you need some tests, okay? You need some natural tests. None of that injected stuff either, okay? Country music is amazing, and people are like, oh, the new stuff sounds like pop. Okay, yeah, what if it does, okay? Times change, old man. Times change, geriatric, in a 20-year-old body. Oh, I listen to every other genre besides country. Okay, we need to change that. And Strider knows. Strider knows he has to listen to country. Okay? But there's just a lot of things that they won't try, a lot of things that they just won't do to accommodate for others. And it shows just a lack of selflessness, right? Obviously, we know that. They're very selfish, but they also advocate for compassion. They're very into themselves, but then they blame Trump for being into himself. There's just a lot of hypocrisy, right? And there's a lot of it on the right too. Don't get me wrong, especially when it comes to geopolitical issues, saying they're America first, and then they advocate for everything that's other than America first. Our society has just a degrading moral compass. I think we could all agree with that. My body, my choice. Yeah. But my favorite country artist, Post Malone. See, that is a low IQ take. Okay. See, you're on kick watching this right now. Okay. Let's how high IQ are we right now? Okay. But guys, I'll be honest. Today's been a rough day. Today's been a busy day for me. Today's been a day where I just threw this setup together, honestly. Because when I walked in, everything was just kind of destroyed. I don't even know how it happened, but the lights were just messed up. The audio was cooked. So we came back from 3-1 and we came back and we won the chip. So anyway, did we see LeBron in Cleveland last night? Bro looks washed, okay? And then Luka Doncic falling off the court. That was something else. Berating Chad is crazy. No, it's not. We all know this. We all know this. Eventually, chat is going to be filled with a bunch of chuds, okay? One day, because the common cause is going to be for everyone, okay? And it just has to happen, okay? We need to get everyone into the common cause, not doing the common retardation, okay? Dylan Brooks 40 bomb, I actually agree. Common cause is chud friendly only for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a chud maxing look maxer because he's about to win a Super Bowl. Okay. Not many can handle that. Drake May looks like a Rubik's Cube because his face is so smushed in, and people just have to admit that. Okay. Sam Darnold has more chud aura than Drake May does. Okay. Drake May has no drip. Drake May had the easiest schedule. There were only 3 teams that he played against where their coach wasn't fired. Okay, can you believe that? So that's a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. And then, I mean, come on. It's going to be a 30-point blowout. Okay, the Patriots are just washed. Stephon Diggs is a goon. He's a gooner. He's a D1 gooner. Okay. He is what's wrong with society. I think we all know that. But then you have Mike McDonald walking into the 49ers stadium. He already owns this place. He already has part ownership of the stadium. He's going to walk in there. He's going to queue up 15 plays for Sam Darnold to look like prime Tom Brady. He's going to look like second half Super Bowl 51 Tom Brady. Okay? And everyone's going to be like, wow, this chud has some aura. And this chud's going to go win a Super Bowl. So anyway, that's enough football talk. Okay. Well, I don't want to jinx any more of it. We'll knock on some wood here. But our country is shutting down. Okay. I also saw liberals were flipping out that ICE is going to be at, Santa Clara for the Super Bowl, which to my credit, I didn't know that was a yearly thing. Okay. Call me the chud if you want, but I forgot about that. But yeah, I'm sure, don't throw it out of the cards that something could happen at the Super Bowl stadium where someone puts themselves into a situation to get hurt. So if anyone's going, be safe, watch out. Don't be surprised if that overshadows the Super Bowl. That's what the left would want. Okay. The left would want a Seattle perfect Super Bowl run, right? To go up against the Patriots to get their revenge. And then they'll send some martyr to go do some stupid situation outside where they'll walk through security without a ticket. They'll go up and punch an ICE agent. The ICE agent takes them to the ground, uses lethal force on them, and then overshadows a 7-touchdown performance from Sam Darnold and a 63-14 win for the Seahawks. See, that's what the left would want. And I'm just not going to tolerate it. Okay. If something like that happens, look, we need all our Twitter warriors to go on immediately and say, Sam Darnold wouldn't have wanted that to happen. Absolutely. But Sam Darnold had 7 flipping touchdowns. So let's lock in and focus on something that matters. And then Bad Bunny at Super Bowl halftime is going to be wearing a, dress. That just shows how gay our society is. Like, I'll go walk into a store and there's at least one tranny in there. And I'm just like, man, I'm just going for some pickles at Costco right now. Okay. You walk in, I'm just wanting to get, they have a jar of Grillo's pickles, which one day if I'm blessed enough to be sponsored by them, I absolutely would. I walk in to get a jar of pickles. I turn around. There's a family of 10 Indians blocking my way. Ironically, to the toilet paper aisle. Can you believe that? We can assure they're not buying any of that. And then I start walking towards self-checkout, which they just moved recently, close to the door. So when you walk in, you can't just walk straight to the food court. You have to go down around all of these things. They throw in all these obstacles. And then you get to this self-checkout line. And then you have this transgender person in front of you who's on their phone, not paying attention. And then you have some minority self-checkout worker yelling at you, there's an open register right there. And I'm like, bro, trust me, I saw it. And then the transgender meanders over to the register you're trying to go to. And then you have to walk back to that Indian family that's like, what are you doing here? And it's just this whole thing every time you go out. And not to act like the victim, but I'm sure everybody else deals with it. And this is in a good area too. Man, Costco's stock is going to fall if this continues. I can tell you that. Yeah, real. They hate you. They genuinely hate you. Like, have you ever been out recently and went to a nice restaurant? You get a good old boy server that comes up to you, or even a woman, and is just like, you know what? I'm so happy to see you this evening. What would you like tonight? It looks like a special night for you. I want it to be a special night for you. Let's get that food out nice, jiffy and quick. Literally nowhere. You go to a Texas Roadhouse. Actually, sorry. I can't talk bad about Texas Roadhouse because last time I went, it was an amazing experience. But you go out to any restaurant, a Chili's. You go out to a Chili's. And you just never get any exceptional service anymore. And you know what? 100% tax on tips, okay? I'm tired of this whole thing where I go out, I wait 40 minutes for a glass of water or a Blue Lagoon at Chili's. That's elite ball knowledge, okay? Go to a Chili's, order a Blue Lagoon. You finally made it to adulthood, little boy. And then you sit down, you sit there for 50 minutes, you get your microwave food, you eat the slop, and then you don't even get asked if you like your food, or you get asked if you like your food when you just got your food and you haven't even had a lick of it yet. And then the server doesn't even come by for the rest of the night. They go talk to their other server who's hitting the weed pen in the back. And then literally, you have the little kiosk thing with all the little games. So you pick up the kiosk, and Kai knows this, and you hit play games. Oh, that'll be $3. $3 for road climb, or hill climb, or whatever it's called. It's like the knockoff version of it. So you have $3 for that. You have your $25 meal for a burger with microwaved, frozen, freeze-dried fries. Sorry, I had a little retardation moment there myself. Pay $25 for that subpar burger. And then now you have a tip option, 10, 15, 20%, custom. Man, that's like the yellow brick road right there, that custom button. Not to give them a $100 tip, but to give them a $0 tip. Okay. And then, you always fold. You always give them the 20% tip. And it's just like, it hurts every single time because you didn't get that exceptional service. You didn't get it. And then you just do it. Like, when did that become the standard? It went from 10 to 20% on raised prices. And then you talk to a server and you're like, well, of course it's raised prices because, everything's getting more expensive. Like, bro, you're telling me 10 years ago, my burger I could have got for $8 is now $25 and it's raised 125%? Like, what? Inflation has not been 125%. Also, the inflation of money as itself with buying power hasn't been 125%. So all I'm saying is we need to make it 10% again. That'll make our country great again. And 100% tax on tips. I didn't like that. And they also got fleeced because it's only up to a certain amount as well. And most places do tip share, so you get matched minimum wage regardless. That's what most people don't understand. So sorry, I had to go into a rant about it because I have that talk with my friends all the time. And I always win. So anyway, you know what? I'll give the chat a chance. I don't know how many people are in chat because it doesn't even tell me, but please load me up with questions. I want to respond to chat. I know I'm not big enough for super chats yet because who would give mean money? Especially after I just said don't tip servers at restaurants. That's a little bit mean. But hey, you can always donate to me because I can guarantee you that money's not going to a server that it's giving me subpar service at a restaurant. Okay? It happens too much, and I know you feel the same way as well. And that's why our country's shutting down, okay? Look at that weave. It was so beautiful. But what are you guys saying? Oh, wow. This is quite a chat. You know what? Black women servers are pretty elite if they do call you baby or they call you honey. They're getting their 20%. Okay. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you for social justice and for equality or whatever they want to frame it, our black queens are getting 20% at Waffle House. Okay. That's a guarantee. I'm sorry, guys. This just wasn't going to be a serious show just because I'm getting back into the swing of things, right? We're back at the home studio. We're back into the swing of things. I'm sure you're going to see some stupid clips from this episode. And you know what? I don't care. I don't want this show to be serious, and it never will be because the common cause got to be common, okay? I don't want it to be 125 IQ intellect, okay? Which, by the way, 125 is slightly above average, okay? It's not even that high of an IQ. But anyway, I want this show to actually be common for the common man, right? Because I'm not talking to my friends. I'm not talking to my family and this high intellect that's so unreasonable that we can't understand things, right? I laid out my argument of why Minnesota was so stupid and so egregious. And you know what? If they just listened to me, everything would be all right. Okay. And that's just the reality of the situation. Carson, are liberals bad? No, I will not say that. That's like such a dumb question as well. Not to tear into you, but it's pretty broad brush. I would have to say no, not every liberals are bad. Not every liberal's bad. We're all doing this life as a first shot, right? And so, defining their character as bad, it's kind of a bad way to actually help them get good character. So no, I'm not going to give the answer that everybody would want to hear. And I'm like, I want total death to all liberals. Like, no, I'm not going to say that. That's kind of a chud take myself. I would have to say, liberals tend to have a good heart, especially ones that aren't politically literate, that aren't politically in the fold. They're most likely to change their opinions when they're older. So, no, I don't think that every liberal is bad. I just think that they're living their life as we are with one shot to do it right. And they think that's the right way to look at it at this moment. So, yeah, I'm not going to say every liberal is bad, but I will say their policies are bad. That is for sure. But anyway, I have to let everyone know a PSA. On Kick, they delete my episodes after a week. Can you believe that? Until I get more followers, until I get my money up, until I get my followers up, until I get my clout up, they want to keep me down. So they delete my streams every week, which is kind of nice because if I say something pretty bad, gone forever. Gone forever, unless if someone's clipping it. But are we at that level yet? Do we have that much motion? Guess time will tell. Kick is low-key gay. You're the one using Kick right now. Okay, buddy? 1. 2, it's also amazing. Okay. I'm not dogging on Kick that they delete every week. In fact, once I reach, I believe, 50 followers, it fixes itself. So we need to become full-time clippers. I agree. Someone has to start clipping this stuff. And look, if I say something pretty crazy, I want that clipped. Okay. And I want it distributed everywhere, no matter how bad the take. If I say it on this show, I mean it. I just won't say TND, okay? That's where the line crosses, okay? That's where it crosses. I can't say that yet, okay? But anyway, guys, this has been The Common Cause. It has been a great episode. I think I laid it out pretty eloquently. Is our country shutting down? Obviously, it's going to, because literally in in about 50 minutes, it's about to shut down. Actually, I can give you guys a status update on that, okay? Is our government shutting down? I'm monitoring the situation right now. Oh wow, this is big. Hassan Piker has been banned on Twitch as well. That's been overdue. Isn't he the guy who shocks his dog? Like, how can you be a libtard and you're like, oh, I want compassion for Alex Preddy, and then I shock my dog into oblivion? Like, clearly shocking stuff doesn't work. They tried that with the gays, okay? So good on, you know what? Good on Twitch. Good on Twitch. That's actually a W Twitch banning, okay, for once in their life. Yeah, all I'm seeing is like clavicular, doing stupid stuff, and drugs. Aiden Ross, somehow he's still relevant. And then, yeah, I mean, pretty much, government's going to shut down. It's so over. We might as well just give up. No, I'm just kidding. But the government is shutting down. Our country is shutting down. I gave you a status update. ICE would fix itself. We would deport millions upon millions of people if we did it my way. Probably even billions of people. We'd start deporting people from other countries to other third world countries, right? We'd say, you know what, ICE, go over to Britain and just deport all the Indians back. You know what, Australia, let's just deport anybody you don't like. You know what, Germany, you want to deport some people? We got the infrastructure. Okay. That's as far as I'm going to go on that topic. The infrastructure is there. But yeah, like we just need to be full stop, really. And we just need to win the optics battle. Like it's just like own up to it. Say it's for democracy. Make JD Vance MOG or make someone else MOG. Maybe JD Vance should be taking the fat shot. Maybe there is an option for him. You know, I saw the GLP-1 pill or whatever on a commercial the other day, and I was like, there's not going to be any more fat people in our country. And can we get a praise hallelujah for that? Okay. But anyway, maybe JD Vance does look into that. No one's going to fault him. Okay. Because politics is an optics game. And if you are going against a gigamogging white retard nationalist, that's what I call Gavin. He's a retard nationalist, right? He's not a Christian nationalist. He's not an American nationalist. He's not a white nationalist. He's a retard nationalist, right? Because he only stands up for retards. He only stands up for the Tim Walz of the world. He only stands up for the transgenders of the world. Okay? And look, a lot of the establishment people like Gunther Eagleman and DC Drano and Colin Rugg, and actually Colin Rugg's kind of good. He just reports news. Sorry, Colin. I didn't mean to throw you into that mix. My bad, G. But a lot of those guys, right? They're not going to say stuff like this because one, they don't actually have shows. And two, if they did have shows, they wouldn't want to say it because it's just a truth nuke. Okay? We need more truth nukes. That needs to be mainstream. And it will be mainstream. Truth nuke is probably about as mainstream as it gets right now. Okay? I'm hearing it everywhere. And if you're not saying it, you're going to be left behind. So, try not to get FOMO, but when you tell a lie and someone says that's cap, they AKA say they're gay when they say that. They're like, oh, that's cap. They're just saying they're gay. You have to say, when something's true, you have to say that's a truth nuke. Okay. And look, you'll be set. You'll be set. You'll be respected as well. So anyway, I've been talking for a long time. It's late. It's a Thursday night. I appreciate y'all staying with me, being the day ones, running up the chat. But I would appreciate if you share my clips once they do come out and we get some more people under this umbrella, because I think we got a good opportunity to chud max here. Okay. Clav is mogging and doing all this stuff. There has to be an everyday chud that chud maxes. Okay. And if it has to be me, I'll do it. So I'm not jester maxing though. That's where the line crosses. Okay. I'll be a chud, but I'll never jester max. Okay. I'll be in the same boat as Sam Darnold, but I won't be in the same boat as Sneeko. Okay. But anyway, thank you again, guys, for watching. Like I said, I told you Kick deletes my streams after a week. So if you tell people to follow my Kick, literally tell them my streams delete after a week. But we do have some promising stuff coming up ahead. I am going to try to upload this stuff onto Spotify. It's been a little pain in my butt recently because of stupid stuff, because Spotify wants to censor me, truthfully. Okay. If they really let me on their platform, let's just say it would be Jover. So anyway, we'll get Spotify figured out. We'll get it all figured out. Guys, this isn't a show for the serious intellectual people. Okay. Go watch Kai Schwemmer for that. I really do recommend it because he's a very smart, talented guy. But this is a show for the common cause. Okay. This is a show that is a commoner show. Okay. We're not in the noble status of society. Okay. you want classy stuff, this probably isn't the place. Okay. I said 10 minutes ago, you shouldn't tip your server if you get mediocre service. Okay. I wouldn't call that exactly classy. And I'm not classy because I don't read the chat. Okay. Because I don't read the chat. Okay. Bro, read my chat. Bro, don't read my chat. He won't read my chat. Maybe ask something good instead of, is it pink? Because is it pink? I don't know. I'm just in a studio, bro. I'm just talking to a camera for an hour and a half on a Thursday night. Do you think I would know? Probably not. I used to pray for times like these. Hashtag Hassan sucks. That is very true. That is very true. Hassan is not a good person. But anyway, you guys won't let me wrap up. Okay. You guys hang it up first. Okay. You guys end the call first. Come on. No, but anyway, thank you guys. I really do appreciate you tuning in. Like, actually, this show is still very small. I do have big plans for the Common Cause. Okay. Because it's going to be common for everybody. Not just for the few, but you guys bought in early. So I appreciate it, but I'll get better. I'll stop rambling as much. I'll lock in, twin. And thank you again for watching episode 5 of the Common Cause. Is our country shutting down? Yeah, it is. But do we care? Not really. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm going to try to upload this to Spotify. Like I said, who knows if it'll work. It's a learn in progress. We're going to continue to lock in. Do it for the Common Cause. Do it for your family. Do it for the streets. Do it for the gang. Do it for the meme. Okay, do it for the meme. And anyway, I had the great pleasure of being with y'all this evening. And until next time, which I have no clue when the hell next time is, just stay in tune. Stay off the record as well. And I'll update you when the next episode is. But big news, we got a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to California for our tour with Reawaken USA and Off the Record USA. I try to keep it separate from the show, but to be a part of the Common Cause, you got to be in the know. You got to be in touch instead of out of touch. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I know I rambled. It's going to be one of those shows. I literally did not prepare at all. Okay. I procrastinated on y'all, and this is the result you get. But anyway, I'm going to eventually create a super chat or a Patreon or whatever, and I'm going to give y'all a tutorial on how to play a Reuben Dominoes. So stay tuned for that. I'll make that happen one day once I get my money up, once I get my funny up, once I get the audience up. But again, if y'all are still watching, I'm just leading you on and gaslighting you at this point. You should probably get off and leave. Like, actually. Like, go spend some time with your family. Lock in. Be a good role model for your kids. Okay? If you're a dad watching this, well, hopefully my dad is watching this. If you are, hello. Okay, guys. Anyway. Wow, I just do not want to read chat anymore. Okay, guys. Anyway, thank you very much. I know I've just been rambling. You guys didn't hang up first, so I'm going to have to hang up first, okay? But anyway, that was the Common Cause. This is our common purpose, and we're going to save this country. Have a good night, and peace.